What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Business and Biceps. And you better wake your ass up, because on today's show, we're going to talk about how to manage your mental health. And I really believe we have some, advanced techniques to share with you. Maurice does this for a living at the Red Zone.
Absolutely.
Johnny Fosco and myself have been trying to figure this out our whole lives on top of it, too. And I think everybody's more aware of it nowadays. I think it's a great thing.
Yeah, mental health, I think at least like in our parents' generation, wasn't really talked about, and it wasn't.
It was like shamed, really.
Yeah, it was something to be ashamed of, and it was perceived weakness.
Yeah.
And I think if you look at all the adversity that the three of us have faced, it's like, man, if we don't have mental health managers in place that are daily, that we're aware of, there's no way we're operating at the level that we are.
Correct.
Mental health is just as important as anything else you can manage personally.
Mo?
Yeah, I would say even more so now, as you were talking about the our parents' generations. I don't think that they had this amount of stimuli. And these,
true, Mo.
These many factors of just pulling their attention, even to, I just remember when you were talking about that, I thought about when my mother told me she got a TV, as a kid, and just to think that we all have computers in our pockets.
I remember that
too.
We got TVs in our pockets,
Yeah.
Basically.
You got everything in there, so I can't wait to dig in on it.
Yeah, it's going to be good. It's brought to you by Square. And what we're excited to tell you guys about is if you are a business that utilizes Square, they have an amazing opportunity that you can apply for small business loans through Square.
Yeah, I think, I don't want to say it's my favorite feature of Square, but when we talk about Square, we always talk about small business and business in general solutions, making doing business easier. And anyone who's willing to lend capital, obviously, they got to do a credit check and all that stuff, but and give you all these other pieces to make your business run more efficiently, is really trying to, like I said previously, create an ecosystem of solutions for you. And I love that about Square.
Yeah, it's called Capital by Square. Go to square.com. They have access to loans between $500 to $250,000. Of course, the loans are subject to credit approval and issued by the Celtic Bank member FDIC. Check them out at square.com. All right. Without further ado, I want to hear from John Fosco. Go ahead, Mo.
Go. So today he's standing 40 feet tall.
Oh! What the fuck?
Record.
And it stems from he's been my ride to the gym.
And we did your laundry.
Yeah. Oh.
No, you did your laundry.
50 feet tall. He let me do laundry over at the house, too.
Maybe 57.
Yeah. So anytime somebody can help you with your laundry and help you get a lift to the gym while you're out of town, I think they deserve to be 50 feet tall.
I feel that, Mo.
Right. So thank you. Right.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.
And I don't know why there's something cool just about getting the ride to the gym. I have no clue.
Probably because you work out by yourself constantly, Mo. So it's
but
fun
I have
to
no
be.
clue why that was cool. I'm getting the ride to the gym. But
He's smiling, even talking about it.
I know.
I don't know. It's pretty cool. Right. So without further ado, we're going to bring Donnie Fosco to the stage.
Thank you. Thank you, crowd.
Thank you.
I appreciate everybody. Mo, you didn't make it clear whether or not I'm on a stage or in a stadium. That would help.
Well, it's currently sprinkling outside, so we're in the amphitheater.
I like that move.
An
Like that
amphitheater.
move.
So like 1,800, capacity here.
I like that move.
Okay.
At least we got a little cabana over top of us.
Okay,
so,
a nice
not
little
get wet.
awning.
Yeah, awning.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay. Very nice. Thank you, Mo. As we enter my world, I was in some kind of deep thought about just individual expectations and the acceptance of things that we choose to do. So when somebody takes a leap of faith and does a new business, starts a new business, even starts mowing people's grass when you're 18 years
Sure.
old or whatever, you're taking a leap of faith. And I think what immediately happens when we take a leap of faith in life is we assign these expectations. I think like intermittently, subconsciously, we just assign these expectations of this is what it should be, right? This is what it should be. And visualization we talk about is a great thing, but there's a difference between visualizing what you're willing to work towards and expecting something. I think when you expect something out of yourself, it's a little different than saying I'm willing to work for it. Like when you just expect this business I'm going to do, I expect it to work without a plan behind it. I think you're doing harm to yourself, and I think you're doing harm to your mind because you're setting yourself up for kind of a blind journey, and it's based on, expectations are based on fears, and they're based on things that aren't strategy. So when you're in that process, I think the acceptance of I'm doing this because I see an opportunity and I want to give it my all, and I'm going to try to put a strategy around it. But if you kind of pull the expectations away from it and just accept that you're all in, like just stop thinking about the numbers you have to hit or what you have to do, and just be at peace with the fact that, motherfucker, I'm going to give it.
I'm in.
I'm going to give it my all.
Yeah.
Like that's accepting what you're doing, as opposed to putting yourself up against a Goliath that does not exist for the sake of thinking that's what you need to do to succeed. And that's a self-defeating lie that a lot of people tell themselves, right? Because think about someone who starts a business. They'll tell you a story about even think about projections in a business plan. What is that? I'm not a big believer in projections, because at the end of the day, I have to put together a plan and a strategy to do the best I can possibly do for my business, and whatever that yields, that yields. But when you project something and you hold yourself to this expectation, you're not really accepting that, hey, I'm going to fucking put in everything, and what comes out of it, I'm going to accept because I know what I'm capable of. And if that doesn't yield this number or this certain level that my friends and family expect from me, I'm okay with that, because I'm doing this because I want to do this. You know what I'm saying? And expectations are just, I think they do more harm, and they stop more people from getting involved in things that they want to do, because everyone has that thing in their head that they've been thinking about for a long time that they want to do, but they also, without even knowing it, they've assigned expectations. If I do that, well, then I got to do this. Well, fuck, if it's got to do this much, maybe I shouldn't do it.
Let me ask you something, Johnny. Do you personally, do you expect to win because you know what you'll put around it, though?
You
know what I'm trying to ask?
I expect it, but it comes from a place of I accept how hard I work, and I believe that will yield it. So I know we're playing on words a little bit here, but it comes from my acceptance of knowing what I'm willing to put in. So let's say if we launch a new business, which we're about to do, and we put out a year one goal, right? Like, I know that a year one goal is an expectation that is based on nothing.
I've never really done that before.
It's based on hearsay. Now, here's the difference. A year two goal is very different.
Yeah.
Because now we have something to compare it to, and now we know if we continue to work hard, you damn right there should be expectations, because we know the landscape. But I'm talking to the guy and the gal who are just getting in the game, who may take their foot backwards because they've assigned these expectations of how it has to be that feel overwhelming.
It's a huge pitfall, because then you're putting yourself to something you have to be based on nothing.
I was saying the same thing, and I think I've been pretty good at that, and it's only from one thing that I don't have your initial expectations, but I've become perfectly cool with saying to myself that as long as I put everything into it, and whatever happens at the end of year one, I'm cool with. I'm not going to jump up and down and cheer, and I'm not going to get too down. But I'll take whatever I've learned in that year's process, or whatever period you cycle through,
Sure.
and just say, hey, I'll improve on this. And I think that I really think that people, when they start something, most people think that they have to hit some like fictitious target, and that like defines if they've done a good job, instead of saying, just switching their mind a little bit and saying, hey, I'm gonna do the best that I can do, and wherever I land, and if I've landed there, there's something to learn to bring it up. And I don't think you were playing on words like in a bad way, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
When you're talking about like year two, you'll have expectations. I just want to clarify this for the listener so they don't think like, oh, he's contradicting himself.
Sure.
Year two, you're talking about I'm making decisions based on facts that I've had the first year.
Exactly.
And my moves that I understand what drives revenue. And so then I can increase those moves, or, sell those products or whatever it may be. And something that didn't make sense year one, like I could just get rid of it, you know what I'm saying? Or get rid of that behavior that I thought made sense. And so I can identify with that. And I don't know, I just want to frame it up in a different way. So, just get something out the listener.
Well, and I think one of the best things I learned from you, John, is the importance of month over month in year two, year three. You're not new anymore. You have something to base it on.
Right.
But that's why the 5-year business plan, the projections things, it's just fucking stupid. It just never made sense to me. I have that similar thing, though. Like, I know what I'm willing to do. I expect to win, especially with our team. But I can't tell you if that's going to be worth $25,000 or $25 million.
Right.
Until we get out. We don't
So you
know
keep
what's going to
going.
run.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Or run at all.
And
so that's actually the thing I'm okay with, though.
Right.
And that's where I think most people aren't okay. That's why they make the projections and the plans, which really sets them up essentially for potential failure.
But and they're not allowing
Or feeling shitty about themselves.
and for anyone listening out there that has the idea and they're in this position that we're talking about, oh, I want to start something, but like, oh, my brain keeps going, I have to do $500,000, or like year one in a business is making mistakes, correcting them, learning, and setting the stage, right, for what's to come. And in that time period, you're also building an operational machine. Now, if you make $40,000, but year two, that fucking machine is ready to have gas poured in it and can fucking, that's a win, man.
Yeah.
That's a win. Year ones, dude, are so full of mistakes and learning your customer, learning things you could never have known unless you actually do it.
Yeah.
I mean, it truly. So
the business plan can't tell you it.
no, man. So I just want to encourage people to accept the fact that there's going to be pain and there's going to be learning experiences, and don't set expectations based on what someone says you should do or someone says you should put in a business plan. Literally, if you have the money to do it and you could afford to do it and you're financially stable and you're ready, go do it. And in year one, just make sure like you build a house with a solid fucking foundation, the roof's on, like everything's fucking solid. And then you can go from there. And then you could start assigning some real expectations, not fictitious.
Yeah.
Oh, saying, but just even from the tone of how he's talking, that's more long-term thinking and saying, hey, I'm going to be an entrepreneur for a long time in comparison to get rich quick.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
It's coming from a guy that's done 7 figures 4 to 5 times, right, Johnny?
But like that's the thought process I'm trying to get to the listener.
Absolutely.
Whereas, I'm not trying to make this move to go get a Benz or a Bentley or the big house real quick.
You're getting in short term, you're gonna be out short term.
Yeah, but that thinking has to start at the beginning.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then like as he was talking, I was like, man, you have to have a spirit of like constantly feeling like I'm still trying to figure it out. You know what I'm saying?
Agreed.
But to be comfortable with that, like, okay, I'm figuring it out. And year one didn't yield with it. Like, I mean, I give you prime example. I didn't know that I would take on the amount of debt that I did year two. But my whole thing was just like, just make sure you're alive. Just make sure you're still going, and then you cycle through that, and then you get through that, and then you say, okay, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was. But the biggest thing is that like to shift your mind and say, okay, I'm in this for the long haul, so I don't have to like have like major success like within my first year. And if things don't land where I think they should land, you know what I'm saying, I'm cool with that.
If you think, and this is the thing that I learned majorly from MP, if you think about if you make short-term decisions for things of that nature, it's going to be built on a house that's not going to be, the foundation ain't there. If you're making long-term non-rush decisions, I've seen it done both ways. MP was built with a lot of short-term decisions for quick marketing, quick distribution. We've built other businesses, John and I, on non-rush decision making with slower and more effective, methodical. No one's rushing for anything because we're aligned properly, and it's an amazing difference actually. So it's good.
I would agree 100%.
Right?
So yeah, good stuff, guys. Absolutely good shit. Let's make our way to Cory Gregory time.
Thank you, John. We have a bunch of different notes that we go back and forth with each other, and we try to put in some ideas for each other's segments. And John had put something in about my mother, a couple things I learned from her. And so 2 things that came to mind, which are really good, and I think are huge for me on a day-to-day basis. And one is how to treat people. So I think that the reason why I've taken a knack for customer service is because of the way that I watched my mother just interact with people. She sold furniture for a while. She did like some other side jobs that had interaction with people, waitress, bunch of different things. And you would watch her treat people like she would treat us, right? Really no different. The caring, the small town, just that type of stuff. Now, ironically, she runs all the customer service for Cory G Fitness, which is amazing. And she takes care of people online the same way as I saw her do it in person. And I think that, and my sister does, she works in logistics, but she does customer care for huge clients for this like chemical company. And she says the same thing. She's like, it's been a huge benefit to watch how mom interacted with people in a kind nature, even though she had a ton of struggle, and still continue to get up every day and not hate the world.
Right.
Even though she probably didn't like her job, and she was, had hard circumstances, just like your mom. And so it was like one of those things that has carried on and continued to benefit me at such a high level that I could never, it's unbelievable, because when you genuinely care, people can feel it.
Oh.
Like, here's a good example. We're at the gym this morning. I started following a guy that I actually didn't even know his name until these guys asked him, but I followed him just because he's from the same gym we're training at when I'm in South Carolina, and I could tell you like powerlifting, so I've been giving him some tips. He walks over and we're working out with him a little bit, and he's like, Jason pulled 455. He's like, man, I've never done that before. This could be a PR. Dude, step up and let's go. We cheered him on like we known him for years, and like, dude, pulls the weight, easy, pumped. That just made his day. I know it. And it's like going that extra to push or to take care of somebody or to care. Exactly. You will have problems from time to time because it makes you vulnerable. There's no question. Some people will take advantage of it. It's happened to me. But I still think the outcome of being that way first has benefited me with the nature of what I do. And I think that that's one thing that keeps coming back. I learned a ton of stuff from my mom, but like that thing being rooted in, and the same thing I do with my kids. If they come over and Maurice hands them something and they don't say thank you, I ain't going to smack them straight like 1960s, but they will say thank you before that person walks away every time. And if they don't, they're going to hear it from me. And I know that sounds small, but that becomes the nature of how they operate the rest of their life. Mm-hmm. Thank you, excuse me. Like, I just don't let it pass. And it's because my mom did the same thing with us. And all we ever heard was, your kids are so polite. They're respectful. They're so good. Now, they might act crazy when they're at home, but when you go out at public and they know there's a set of ways that you have to act, and continuing to understand how you treat your elders and how you do things and how you treat somebody on the street just the same. And so I just wanted to remind everybody that in this world of chaos, that human interaction, we'll say it a million times on this podcast, is extremely valuable in an unbusiness way.
It's a necessity.
It's a necessity. And if you bring it back to business, you're going to win. If somebody knows the business cares about them, like we do here at Business and Biceps, we come here knowing there's no expectation back. We know that we care to help these people. Same thing you probably see, Mo. Same thing you guys have seen on your DMs, John. It's like, I don't know. There's something on my heart today because I was like, that was so rooted in my whole upbringing, and me and my sister both carried it on.
I'll tell you this, as you were talking about that, one thing that went through my mind was also the importance of looking people in the eye.
Oh,
I
I do the same thing.
Yeah,
I tell the same thing to my kids that too.
But I think it's lost, and I don't think that people understand that there's an assertiveness in another person that you kind of pick up. Like you kind of lift it up in them to take you serious as you're talking.
Yep.
And like that's to establish engagement. But I don't think that in the world where we are less personable with technology and emails and text messages and even phone calls have become diminished. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to give something to the listener that even if you're younger, you may have not grown up in it. You know what I'm saying? And having just somebody take you serious, it can start off with a basic social skill as
You're right.
Before I can even like you to serve you or to figure out if you're nice. Hey man, let me look you in your eye. Let me talk to you. Let me hold that conversation or hold that level, those level of mannerisms. And I got to say that too. I got like a loving and caring and soft-hearted mother. And I got to say, like, even just my manners, and I think that's why so much, like, I even try to fight like all the like worldly stuff I've learned and get back to like how I was actually raised. You know what I'm saying? Because when you really, like, when you try to even raise your kids, what are you doing? Like, be mannerable and be nice, be considerate, don't be rude, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And you're really trying to speak to yourself as an adult. That's how you should really act, you know what I mean?
Yep.
But there's, aside from business, just being in the world that way is I think how people should operate more times than not.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and when you talk about it transferring to business, I mean, I guess starting with, when you look somebody in the eye and you lock onto their eyes, what you're saying is like, I respect you, I'm engaged with you, and whatever happens in this conversation, I'm taking with me. That says without saying that this time has importance, whether it's 5 seconds or 30 seconds. And from that, people are going to take you seriously.
That's a good one. This time has importance. I think that is it.
Yeah.
You important enough for me to pay attention to.
Yeah, and in this world, people aren't giving you that often.
What kind of effort does that take to what?
These are intangibles that make differences in your life, though, so dramatically. In business too.
Hey, when someone looks me dead in the eye, I feel it. And the first thing you feel when someone looks you dead in the eye is it's almost like, okay. But
wait a second, though, John.
No, but that okay turns into like, all right.
Yeah.
I'm
in.
Like, okay, I got respect for you. Like you're a man or you're a woman, you're confident. And then from there, it's like, it's so easy to take that and just be a caring person. I think a caring person, you shared how your mom did it, how you do it, but it could just be asking somebody and actually caring, like, how you doing? You need any help with something, and not going through the motions when you do it, but if they answer back, be willing to give what you ask.
Absolutely.
Be willing to support those words. But yeah, I don't want to harp on the technology and this and that, but for all you young guys and gals, man, if you can look someone in the eye, crack a smile and be genuine, just start there. There's power in that, man.
But I'll tell you like this, I don't think and I'm kind of finding it different. It's important to talk about how the technology exists in the world that we live in today. And at times I find myself beating it up on old podcasts But if the younger people don't have it explained to them, they'll never know that there is a difference.
Yeah, because they didn't live without it.
Because
We lived without it.
I remember you said to me on one podcast, you said, Reese, my kids don't know any difference. You know what I'm saying? And so
They have phones and a black president, Mo.
they don't know.
I mean, it's like
they don't.
shit's different than what it was.
They got Donnie now.
I try not to mention that.
Here's Donnie.
But when you think about it, so at some point you have to come off the internet, and if you're to ascend to real business, the majority of real business, now we can talk about these outliers and young kids in Silicon Valley who just make massive amounts of money, but
Too small percent.
0.00001%.
yes, but the majority of the world and guys who have real business, real brands established, they older and they come from our generation, or they were older guys to us. You know what I'm saying? And if you're to get to a point where you're trying to get into massive industries, you have to be a person at some point. You know what I'm saying? And if you're just never aware that these things are respected, no difference than I take it back to when I read Charlie Munger's book, and he talked about if you don't understand culture, you'll never make all the money that you're supposed to make,
So fucking true.
right? And younger people can say, hey, we're young, we're making all this money, we're making these moves, but there's still a culture amongst different generations. Just as we deal with people who may be older than us, different, our parents, and
Of course.
what's important to them and matters is important to them. They don't care about technology. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And so I used to think I was beating up on it, but then now it's from like an explaining standpoint.
Well, yeah.
They wouldn't know.
Well, in closing, my whole point to this was these are intangibles inside of life or business that can make and will make you stand out even more so with the technology.
Yes.
Like, so I look at here's how I kind of wrap up my career. It's not really because of the traditional stuff is why I'm here. It's because of this type of stuff. I really believe that separated me times thousands of customers all day long
Interpersonal skills.
for a decade because of this type of operation. Which is a choice, and it's free, by the way.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, Mo, time for the pirate.
Dum, dum. Yes. And so we're going to go with the assessment program today.
Oh,
okay.
Okay. There we go.
The body fat assessment, Mo?
No, not a body fat assessment. We're going to
Just messing with
go. We're going to go with a risk assessment
Oh,
program.
I like that.
Right. And I was running the track today, and as I was running, for whatever reason, I was thinking about at times that I've failed with trying to do joint ventures with people, right? And this conversation probably came to me about a couple months, and sometimes I just talk to myself, and I'll just like have a full conversation.
I'm aware of that.
Yeah.
And then you text us
And
and
everyone
know what you're
listening,
talking about.
he truly means it.
No.
Like, truly.
Hey,
Yeah, I have a full
I got a lot of these
conversation with
stories. Go
myself.
ahead.
Yeah. And so, and I think I may like, so sometimes I don't know if I talk to myself or if I talk to you all. You ever do that? And you just like,
Yeah.
did I say this?
Not
to
as much
somebody
as you,
before?
but yes.
I
But we
don't know if I do that, but you're good at it.
So good.
So I was thinking to myself, I said, when was the times that I've had failure in business or failure in joint ventures? And I know a lot of our young people, they may assess to say, hey, I want John to be my partner because, we've known each other for a long time, or I want Cory to be my partner because, we go to the same gym, or I know him, or I just may be familiar with him, or we have the same classes together. And they'll run their assessment off of that, or we live in the same neighborhood. And I had those beliefs that just because I was friends with somebody that we could go into business. But what I didn't realize was that my financial stability or situation was completely different than the next person's financial situation, right? And when it had come to making decisions, where my decisions were a little bit more methodical and what was going on, wouldn't take me out. If this business failed, I wouldn't fall apart. You know what I'm saying? And if this business failed for the next guy or the other person, it would basically take them out, and it would be like life changing for them. And I didn't understand the importance of how much that drove decisions.
Oh,
Right. And where another person was super in survival mode, desperation mode, or super quick fix-ish mode, it would always basically put us in a bad situation, or it would cause strain on the relationship.
That's the no good mode.
The no good mode, right? But you can be doing this stuff and be not aware. At that time you have too much money invested. You're in the process, and then now you're trying to correct something that is inevitably wrong. And I just want to give advice to younger guys, older guys. It doesn't matter who you are. And you should have a full risk assessment on the person you get ready to do business with. And part of that should be for you to be honest with you and take a look at their lifestyle and how much money they do have and how much money can they set aside. I think that's part of why banks lend money to people. And they ask, hey, what does your last 4 or 5 months look like? Are you always draining your account? Do you hold on to money? Are you a super desperate person who actually has to use money constantly to just fund everything that you have going on? And so that goes down to looking at the cars these people drive and see if they can afford it, looking at the house or the neighborhood that they live in and ask yourself, like, how much does that really cost? Looking at the bills that they may pay and ask yourself how much that may really cost. And then to you get into the hard numbers of your business to say, okay, how much does it cost to fund this thing? You know what I'm saying? And if you have a brain to think, you can say to yourself, like, okay, there's outside of funding this deal, there may be some unincurred costs or expenses that we have to pay.
Always.
And, does this person have the capital to do that? And if I ask for the capital from them, well, they get squirmish because everything is like so tight. You know what I'm saying? And so those weren't things that I knew previously. And these were things that you just may be a young guy. You may be just naive and say, hey, me and my buddy want to start a business together and we just want to get into it. But if you say where my losses at, I can go back to instances where I just lost. And then I remember it was one relationship where me and a guy got in the business and we were pretty decent friends. He just ran off. You know what I'm saying? And I was sad because I said, man, had you come to me and just be honest with me about your financial situation, we could have structured a deal differently. You could maybe instead of 50-50,
Ego.
it could have been 80-20.
Yeah.
And then I could have said, hey, maybe, I could let you buy another 30% at X dollars.
Yeah, you could earn it out.
You can earn it back, or maybe I could say, hey, Cory, you have sweat equity.
Not communicating, bro.
Just not communicating, but I just think I don't know. I'll let you all talk on that.
I think this is a great point.
It is a great point, and I've been in many situations like this, and that's why, I've made mistakes as well, but that's why the money has to go on the table in the beginning. So as opposed to saying, and I'm not being critical at all because I've made mistakes too.
Be critical.
Yeah. As opposed to saying, if we get in a bind, does this person have it? It's, well, the capital required to start this business
is already up.
We've underwritten 50 to 75K for unexpected expenses. So we need 300K to start this. And as opposed to sometimes maybe looking to people's cars or houses, which a lot of people who have great cars and great houses are overextended and have no money in the bank.
Yes.
Why do you think the bank? Why do you think the bank asks you? What's the first 4 lines in the bank statement whenever you apply for a loan? What's your house cost?
Yes.
What's your overhead?
Yes.
Yeah, but when you get it out on the table at the beginning, then you could say, listen, I don't have capital to put up, but here's the thing. What I do in this, let's say, circle of 4 people is I'm going to do this. And no disrespect to anybody else, but if anyone wants to make an argument, like you could do it better, let me know, but I'm pretty sure you guys need me for this. And that's why I need 20%. And other people will be like, well, if we're funding this thing, you're worth 10%. And then you have a decision to make. But I think for guys starting things up, the money and the equity and the roles and the understanding of who has to do what has to be on the table before the green light hits and you say go. That's my big thing. I've never been in a good scenario where a business is moving and people have to ante up, because people don't like to ante up.
No.
But if they agree to at the beginning, and that is the cause for the formation of the business, and everyone knows their roles, and it goes into an operating agreement, well, then it don't matter if shit pops up because the money's there. So yeah, I would just say, that's part of, and I've said this to you before, let's get the ugly shit out of the way at the beginning. You know what I'm saying? And that's, what am I worth? What are you worth? And, if we can't figure it out, we can't. If we can, great.
I just think it comes down to, too, John, what I experienced once again, I'll touch on it. I experienced the the I can barely pay my rent guy as a partner, and trying to showcase these things, and then the methodical money's in the bank, make decisions slow. No one's worried about making their rent payment. Most of our shit's paid off. It's just a whole different level of business.
Yeah.
Now, not everyone starts there, and I get it because I didn't start there. John didn't start there. You didn't start there. So there has to be the guy that, but laying on the table, I'm a sweat equity player. I'm going to fill this role. I appreciate that I can't offer the funding, so I get it. But the funding guys, they got more pop most of the time because that's what it is.
It's always going to be that way.
It's never going to change.
Always.
My grandpa told me when I was 12 years old, the guy with the gold makes all the rules.
Because odds say
it's the fucking truth.
The money isn't coming back. That's what. See,
right, John. Talk about them odds.
No. Yeah, I mean the odds are 10% that the money. I don't even want to say will come back.
Yeah.
That basically the business will just be able to function, and a business functioning doesn't mean investors are paid back.
No.
Investors being paid back means that there's some form of net revenue, and getting to that point is hard. So you're always going to have more leverage. And guys who have great ideas and sweat equity but don't have money yet, part of the process is, having a hit, as they say, and then making some money with 5% or 10% equity, getting some money for yourself and building that up, because you're always going to get out leveraged by the people with money, not because they're assholes, because they won. They have something to lose. They fucking won. You could say your time's valuable. Motherfucker, my time's in and my money's in.
There you go.
That's why I'm going to own 70%. It was your idea. You get 10, you get 5. That's how it is. Now make something of it. We're not saying we won't pay you a salary. Fuck, if you're killing it, you get a fucking nice salary. But that's the deal, dude. I got money on the fucking table. You don't. Your time ain't worth shit until you're worth shit.
Well, and a lot of people don't look at it like this either, Mo. You figure if you're in that higher tax bracket, it's really like to make that $100,000 to put it in, you had to make $200,000.
Yes.
Basically. Motherfuckers don't think of it like that. You know what I'm saying? I do. John does. You do, because we had to create it out of thin air. And so that's where the value, that's where that tone that you heard, that's how it's supposed to be. And you should want to be from the sweat equity guy, which we all went through, to the guy that can write the check. That's the level you want to go to. I think it's a great point, man. And it is completely different scenario. And when the other person is making short-term decisions because they can't eat, it strains the business.
Yeah. Just to wrap it up, you come to this podcast to get information. I just hope that you can step into your next business scenario more equipped. You know what I'm saying? That's all
absolutely.
it is.
It's great.
And, hopefully that conversation did it.
Treasure chest of content. Time for Butt Life.
Butt Life.
Yes, everyone keep on sending us questions at Biz and Biceps on Instagram and Twitter. If we use your question on the air, we'll send out a free t-shirt for you.
Butt Life Q1.
How do you gauge progress when a business is still in the development stage before launch? There aren't sales or numbers at this point to show it.
I think the development of your team, if you don't have a team, if it's you, I would look to the development of your monetization process. So if you haven't started it and you're starting piece by piece to understand how you go from this thought to this structure, to how this structure is going to be different, to then how the structure is going to get customers, and then to how those customers are going to spend their money, and then how you're going to build the customer base, and then how often they're going to come back. A lot of people do. I just want to throw something out. A lot of people don't think about that. If I get a customer, how often do they come back? And if you think about us talking about supplements, they got to come back every month,
Retention.
right? When you sell things that there's action figures right here. Okay, you sell action figures. They may come once a year. That's why I always say my favorite business to own ever would be the toilet paper business.
Yeah.
Period. Game over. You know what I'm saying? Your market's 0 to 100, and everyone's coming back. They need toilet paper, right? So what I would say is you gauge it through the development and understanding of how to monetize. So when you launch, you understand how you're going to go from this thought to that dollar.
Yeah, I second that. Everything that I've really been involved in is had something that they need, that people need monthly, and I think that's one of my favorite models. Per se.
Yeah,
Just it.
No, I think he hit it on the head. your progress or just the thing that can kind of get you excited is that you understand you've improved your understanding on how you're going to go get your revenue. Period.
Yeah, I like it. All right.
Q2 Butt Life.
How do you think about establishing wages in the beginning of a business? I'm having trouble determining whether I should pay employees commission, salary, or hourly when I'm just beginning to hire people.
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking, I mean, so commission, right? You can't really pay somebody commission unless they're in sales. So I would say 1,000,000% if you're starting out, it should be all commission, right? Because it's not like you got, a treasure chest of money yet,
Yeah.
right? So if they want an opportunity and they see the vision that you see and they want to be a part of it, they should be willing to say, yeah, dude, I can sell the shit out of this. Okay, prove it then. Dude, the great thing about commission is you eat what you kill.
Yep.
There's no fucking ceiling on it.
Yep.
The biggest earners I know that aren't entrepreneurs are salespeople because they sell the fuck out of shit and it keeps coming back to them. So that's that. For other people, I would say, listen, you have to prove yourself before you make money here. I would bring them in as interns because the one thing, and it's not about just saving money. It's about showing the owner. It's about showing you, who asked the question, that these people want to be part of what you're doing. Like I've said before on this podcast, you don't want someone who's coming in to get a paycheck. So how do you weed them out? You say, okay, your foot's in the fucking door, and there's only one way to go from here, up. So I'll give you an internship opportunity, and if you show me what the fuck you got, you're on the payroll. But for 3 months, let's see what you got.
Here's the deal. I think everybody wants to work in the office with the ping pong table. You know what I'm saying?
The Google office with nap rooms and this and that.
Yeah. So what I'm getting at is in entrepreneur life, everybody thinks that's, oh my gosh, I'll get it with this startup and we got capital and we'll be doing, they'll just hit me with a salary. Well, that's not really how it works. So if you want to experience, not as an owner, but as part of a team of cool ass shit that takes a lot of work, you got to come and showcase that you're down for it at first. Mm-hmm. And we're taking risk as entrepreneurs. I don't mind having somebody that is on the team have to take a risk for 30, 60, 90 days to showcase that they really want to be here. That's how we do shit.
Right.
We
have
done it the whole time.
Right.
And it's worked out because you weed through the fuckheads and you get the people that really are about it.
Yes.
Master P style, motherfucker.
Absolutely.
Silk the shocker, dude.
Yeah, well, I'll tell the guy this, even as you all were talking about that. And you recruit those people by having like a clear-cut vision and being able to articulate your vision. And people don't necessarily follow people first. They follow the vision. And then if they happen to like you, they'll say, okay, I'm a fan of that. You know what I'm saying? Because that guy is going to do something that I want to be involved in or I want to be around it. You know what I'm saying? And so that's the first place because you can get somebody to do something to you for nothing. To be honest with you, people would do work for nothing if you explain it right. That's what
exactly.
Put like this: go to church. Churches are filled with people who do things for the cause, strictly for the cause, not for the money, and they'll come out by the hundreds. You can go pay a construction company to build a house, but if you say, hey, Cory's house just had some horrific thing happen to it, and some disaster happened, and we need 50 hands in a church who are skilled to come build a house, and Lowe's will donate all the lumber.
Really?
You know what I'm saying?
That actually just happened in my house. What church can I contact?
This guy, Joel Osteen.
Yeah, I'll contact Joel.
Don't at me, Joel.
That motherfucker.
Next question.
Fuck that guy. About Life Q3.
What are some strategies you recommend for bookkeeping in the beginning stages of a business? Do I need to hire an accountant for my business, or can I just use software and do it myself?
I wouldn't recommend doing it yourself because, yes, you do have to wear a lot of hats at the beginning of starting a business. But bookkeeping and taxes and the IRS and payroll management are very specific tasks that have very specific consequences for not doing them correctly. So what I would say is get a bookkeeper to start. Bookkeepers are cheap. Yeah. Accountants are a little bit more expensive, but just get a bookkeeper to keep track of money in, money out, so you have a buffer of protection when it comes to tax time, so it's not on you. If you don't know anything about accounting, hey, that's the one piece that you can offload for a very reasonable price.
Listen, there's no question this makes you feel much better about your business when you have somebody that's reconciling the account, giving you a P&L, doing all those things monthly. And check this out. It's like at a startup business, a couple $100 a month max. Like multi-million-dollar business. It's like $500-600 a month for a multi-million-dollar business. So like honestly, there's nothing that you don't want to try to do this on your own.
So first of all, just if I regret one thing that I didn't do, that I did my month 7 that I didn't do from day one was bookkeeping. And making sure that numbers were right, making sure that I just even had that practice to reconcile books at the end of every month.
So much help.
1 month, this was like month 5, 6 of the business. I had $7,000 go out the door in a month that I could that weren't approved. So like even like let's dig into that further. Even checks and balances behind spending.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And what's the approval process of purchasing?
Can I get a Red Zone company card?
Oh, you want one?
Maybe you could get that fucking sweatshirt we've been asking for.
It's in the mail.
This guy. God, this guy.
Damn it, Mo.
Yeah, but I want to stress that to not only him but anybody, just bookkeeping, accounting, and literally stand on top of your numbers and where your money's coming and where your money's going. I don't even know how to. I wish I had a word to stress that. How?
Well, no. If you don't have it, you're going to be stressed. Way more than you need to be.
Go further. If you want to talk about how do you get capital lent to you? You know, when the bank goes to you, they want to see all your numbers. Where's your money at? You know what I'm saying?
True.
If you want to, and that goes from buying building space, that goes from getting loans, that goes from getting lines of credit, that just goes
getting
for
a fucking business credit card.
Getting a business credit card. You know what I'm saying? And truly, you really don't know your business unless you know the numbers of your business, and you really can't increase the bottom line unless you start to look at your P&L
unless
sheet.
you know the bottom line.
Yeah, and start to say, okay, I'm spending a little bit more on this, but it all starts with those basic practices of saying, okay, and that, like you said, that $200 investment every month
doesn't cost that much for that kind of peace of mind.
Man, it's just good practice.
I like it. All right, time for the main event.
Ring the bell, please. Thank you.
All right, fellas. So we're going to weigh in on some mental health managers, day-to-day, long-term, short-term, all the above. Once again, we talked about it early in the show about how this, generation prior to us was, a thing maybe that people were shameful about or never brought up and never dealt with. I know 100% I can talk for myself. Like, my dad absolutely needed help, 100%, from people dying young in his life and other things, and the way I watched his swings with the weather. And the more I understand mental health, I start to put things and understand that
your past makes sense.
Oh yeah, and just the way he operated makes more sense, and how I am internally, I can feel parts of it, right? And so if the guy could have got help, he could have probably had a better outcome of his life until he passed away. And I think that a lot of people just don't get help for it or don't even recognize it. And so I think that there's some things that you can get, obviously professional help, but also things you can do for yourself, I think, on the way. So
yeah, you brought up your dad. I'll follow suit there. I think step one, right, is recognizing. So my dad is there's no way he'll go see a psychiatrist or psychologist. He's a by definition a narcissist to the bone, meaning he cannot separate himself from someone else. So if there was somebody in his kitchen, right, who had done crimes, but that person in the kitchen looked him in his eye, said, "Please, thank you, Mr. Fosco, clean the counter," he would say, "That's a good girl. That's a good." Because it's all about him, right? It's all about how that person interacts with him, right? Mm-hmm. That's the judgment zone. So that's a narcissist. But when you talk about mental health managers, first you have to identify what you're kind of fucked up on, and I think the best thing you can do is listen to the patterns that you've been hearing your whole life from people close to you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, if you keep hearing the same thing from different people about like, hey man, what's up with this?
Yeah.
Like, okay, zero in on that. And then when you zero in on that, you got, just like anything else, man, you got to put a strategy together. And I've talked about this a million times, but I'll add to it is like, you know, I'm naturally tight wound. I'm naturally stubborn. I'm naturally overly aggressive, and I need things that calm me.
Yep.
And I've identified that. And I've also learned to identify when I'm getting into those modes, right? Because that is the definition of managing it. Like, I think one thing people need to understand is like, things don't go away. You just learn to manage them better. So beyond, you know, the arts and music, like when Cory, when you were coming down here, we were talking about doing something at a certain time. I just said I'm not willing at this time with what's going on to give up my workout. I need it. I need it for my mental health. And
that's what gave me the idea about the segment, actually.
Yeah, like that was just me speaking true, like, because I know if I don't get it, I'm going to be that guy who's aggressive and stubborn and comes off that way, and it's better for it's better for myself and everyone around me for me to not be that person. And I don't want to be selfish about it, but sometimes when we have the world pulling at us, we have to be able to claim our space. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Just like you claim your space in the morning, and I think the people around us who care and respect us, they respect that space.
Well, yeah, and you weren't hesitant to just say it. And why? What am I going to say back? Oh, fuck that. Of course not. I'm going to be like, of course. That's why not?
Right, I mean, right.
But some people are. They'll bend, but at their own own detriment. And I have outlined those things that I know I have to have, or I'm not Cory.
Right.
That's
so
it.
So if you came here and I was like, hey, Cory, you're here, you know, do the early morning workouts, bro. Like, fuck that. Like, let's get on some other shit.
I would say no.
Exactly. Exactly. Because how's the rest of your day gonna feel?
Shitty. There you go. Go ahead, Mo.
Yeah, I think just from a personal standpoint, from a personal mental health manager, it's pretty much the same. I think that mine just a little bit different. I don't have that time here, but just getting up in the morning and just like letting myself grab coffee, go downstairs, and just sit in silence. You know what I'm saying? And that's the process I call like my little semi-meditation area.
Okay.
And I'm just sitting there and I'm staring at the whiteboard.
How long, Mo, is that process?
15 minutes, 10, 15 minutes. Like the time it takes for me to warm up the Keurig, grab the coffee cup. I do the same thing, grab my clothes out the dryer, go downstairs, put my clothes on. I'm sitting back, I'm chilling, and I got everything sort of, and this is part of just managing my mental health. I think like naturally your brain is just kind of like trying to gather itself in the morning as you wake up. And I think when you first start taking coffee, pre-workouts, or whatever a person does to get up, I think then there's a level of focus that your mind is starting to get into. And I just like to look at my stuff that I have going on and, I've accomplished this. I'll go ahead and write on there. I'm sitting in silence. I'm gathering myself. But then I think when I go work out or when I'm on my way to the gym, that's like that also just silence. You know what I'm saying? That helps to calm me and get me in the zone. And then I only, outside of listening to audiobooks, I only listen to music that's encouraging. Like only stuff that's like vibrant and encouraging and, you know, stuff that you would probably hear if you want to go to a party or if you would want to do something like energetic, you know what I'm saying? And I think like that stuff helps me out mentally, you know what I'm saying? And then just the process of going through a workout and making sure that I'm pushing myself or pushing something to, if I have a strain, to get through something. But I think all that stuff, just from a personal balance standpoint, I know we talk about it, but I don't think you can talk about it enough because if it's the formula with how you with how you prepare yourself, it is what it is, you know, and it has no variance. From a professional standpoint, if somebody had more severe issues, and let me say this to categorize it, I think what the process I just named, the process that John named, and I think Cory talks about it a lot all the time. Those are things from the maintenance standpoint, you know what I'm saying? But that's no difference than if you had a car, you have to maintain the oil, or you have to maintain gas, or you have to maintain a car wash and a vacuum and stuff like that. But if you had an alternator go out, you would need a professional to deal with that. And it's no difference than if you had something traumatic or major happen from your personal life that was significant, like an alternator, an engine, or whatever it is. You would go to somebody, i.e. a therapist, to basically start to work with it, right? And then they would basically, from a higher level of profession, be able to say, okay, you know, and I say this all the time, you're not going to go to a therapist and get every answer on day one. And I just like to, as a cue to the listener, because I think a lot of people will go and say, okay, you know,
You gonna fix me?
if you don't, but if you don't fix me, I'm gone. Just like if I come to the gym and if you don't make me have abs in a week, I'm gone.
Yeah.
And you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, of course.
But
you're doing a good job making the parallels, Mo.
yeah, I
on
know.
this.
Ah,
Of course he does. He's dialed
2019.
in. It's 2019.
Nah,
2019.
yeah, but just you know, but I just like I'm talking shit.
I love it.
No,
Go ahead, sorry, Mo.
I'm talking shit, but that like that's what it is, and so but you know I do this because I try to make a softer landing pad for people to get professional help. You know what I'm saying? To where like if somebody offers you professional help or somebody says it to you, there's so much resistance and so much fogginess on the front side.
They think it's weakness.
You think it's a weakness, you know what I'm saying? But you if you explain it in a way
It's a
where,
strength.
okay, I get it now. You know what I'm saying? I get what you're trying to get at. And that's where that clinical thing, and now you have somebody just like a trainer, just like a automobile technician or whoever it is. Now you have somebody assisting you. And so I say this all the time, and I pass it off after that, right? After this. If I told you all that we had to get ready for a football season, you all would totally understand that we would have to lift weights. We would have to basically run, condition. We would have to watch film. We would have to do all that stuff, right? And that's only for the game of football, for a physical activity. But if I told you that your mind had to be well and healthy, you wouldn't give me like a routine that you had, or you wouldn't respect a routine that, you know, I just gave you an option. And in our society, there's not a lot of routines, but you get stressed out. You have bills, you have coworkers, you have traffic, you have all these things that pull on your mentality, right? And what happens to anybody when they're out of shape? Body breaks down, get injured, so on and so forth. And so that's why you see people having anxiety attacks, panic attacks.
Yeah.
And then instead of saying, hey, let me get some structured help, or let me get a program, let me go get high, let me go get drunk. Oh, and then we mask it up and saying, you know, happy hours at 4:00. And so you're mildly like, what do you call it, medicating yourself. And that becomes the routine.
That becomes your manager.
Yeah. And then, but I think we all know that our lives are a little bit disruptive. So I think everybody knows this, bro. Everybody knows who they used to be in high school when all these things weren't a factor.
Word.
When everything was innocent and you know, you didn't have all the stress from life. And I think like when people get older, you start to see them gain weight. You start to see them just lose themselves. You start to see them everything. That's an indicator that you've not taken care of your mind, right? Because you've let life beat you up. You know what I'm saying? And so that's why that's why we come to different places and we're like, yo, you know, let me compensate for myself. Let me go get these things to act like I'm doing very well, but you're not.
Right. You haven't seen your fucking penis in 8 years.
Comes back to that
seriously.
episode.
No, seriously. You haven't seen your penis in 8 years because you're so busy working that you've completely let go of your body. And when you were in high school, you didn't, like you were talking about. You know, you're a fucking fat ass now because there's something in your life that you're not happy about. But what are you doing to become happy about it? Oh, you're buying cars? Still can't see your dick.
Ah!
You know what I'm saying?
No, it's the truth,
Still
though.
can't see your penis.
Yes.
But one thing I want to say
Go
real
ahead, Mo.
quick
Or go ahead, Joe.
is, and I know I brought this up to you like, I don't know, a couple weeks ago, but the more I'm even observing myself, I do a lot of shit on a daily basis, but what I'm doing less and less is using technology. And that may sound
I've witnessed that. You're correct.
very bizarre, but I'm finding that, okay, if you have a job and you work for a company and you have to do certain things, this may not apply. But for an entrepreneur, from a creative standpoint, the most important things we do are make decisions. I don't need an email to make a decision. I need an email to pay an invoice, right?
Yes.
Like, so I probably am on technology 40 minutes a day, and I do a lot of different shit. And it's because when I'm on it, I feel like something else is in control, because it is. And it's pulling at me, and it's pulling at me. And I find the days where I spend more time on technology, I get more frustrated. We're talking about mental health managers.
Yeah.
I get frustrated because I'm not in control. John is not in control. The computer and the emails that keep coming through that John feels like he has to, fuck that. That's why, I mean, we had a meeting yesterday. Yeah, as funny as it sounds, I don't really fuck with emails. So text me a fucking screenshot. Like, that is literally, that people may laugh at that, but that is how I choose to roll, because there's several different paths to get to the same destination. So if mine may sound out there, send me a fucking screenshot because my phone's in my hand and I'm not on a computer. I don't give a fuck. I can get to the same destination as opening an email, writing it out, Fuck that. I don't want to work that way.
You're managing your feelings, though, John.
What's up?
You identified how you feel one way, and you identified how you feel the other way, and you're managing it.
You're absolutely right, and I perform at an optimum level.
There it is.
When I have less technology fucking with my thoughts. My thoughts are how I cash checks, not my phone or my laptop.
Yeah, I'm going to come back to, I think, a little bit of my process of how I manage. I think that the gym, obviously everyone knows, is a huge part of my life. It's the competition and aggressiveness of the weight, of why I like powerlifting so much. It's that bar's there, doesn't care what you do, how cool you think you are, and it either goes up or it doesn't. It's on you. And there's a competition aspect to it, because I still have a lot of people that I train with, and it's aggressive. Even though I don't seem like an aggressive person, because I'm really not, but I need some level. And this is kind of how I got into working out in the first place. I was an angry kid at my situation, so I started hitting the bag. I still have this bag it was the first thing I ever bought. I think I was like 15 years old. I used my money from bale and hay and bought this canvas white Effortless bag. Still got blood all over because I never had no gloves. And that's how I would just go and hit the bag because I was so mad. And then I would lift weights on top of it. And I didn't realize that, but that's how I started to manage myself. And so I still need that. Even when I'm gone and I only lunge or do conditioning, it doesn't do it for me. I think that's where my dedication and love for powerlifting lies, is because when I get through that, there's something inside of me that is released, or just, cool. Then I have to do the conditioning aspect that's combined with the mental health that not only helps my confidence from a look standpoint, but also is feeding my brain for 30 minutes to an hour that's getting me there. It takes all of that, and it's taken a long time to understand what it takes, years, and that's why I'm such a big pusher of what I do. If I can get people even just to the lunge part and make them start to take this serious, where they're listening to our podcast or listening to David Goggins or whatever it may be, they start to understand how it starts to open their life up.
Absolutely.
And so the Lunge and Learn, or the Lunge University, that was all birthed on trying to, it's going to sound funny, essentially trick people into trying to manage their mental health and learn more to make them feel better. Because I already know what the physical stuff will do for people if they kind of listen to me. But when you combine that, and that's why the most people that hit me up about a lot of it's based around that stuff, because they don't even realize how much it's helping them, or they start to realize and they're like, man, this is shit fucking, I feel so much better. It literally takes that 2-hour clip just for Cory to be Cory. And I think that's why, and John's asked me about this, about the different person between the gym and business. I think it's because if I didn't do that, I probably would be a little bit not as mild-mannered as I am during the day, because I've already got that out.
I'm telling you this, even as you're talking, I can feel an energy that I think people searching for this. You know, I think that even as you started talking, I think like he made a joke about it when he talked about the guy not being able to see his dick, and like where that hit me, and I was like, man, there's a lot of people. And sometimes you could just have a conversation, but you be talking about potential solutions, and I just felt like a societal energy. I said there's a lot of people in society who just don't have the wherewithal or the awareness to just say, hey, how do I manage my mental health? Because you got to figure, we all know what we should be or we have the potential to be, but getting there is the problem, and figuring out if we're on the right track or if we're doing the right
And no one
actions.
knows the directions.
Yeah, and so as we're talking about it, I was like, man, this is like, it's a little bit larger than this. You know what I mean?
Hell yeah.
It's like societal in a way. And just as you have, you know how like when a new workout craze comes and everybody tries it out, I can see if this thing that we call mental health manager is formalized. I don't know how you platform or categorize it or box it up. I can see, you know, there being more supportive conversations around that, because I think when we talk about me and you, if we want to go to the gym and we want better abs, there's a category, there's a series of workouts from that, right? But for the basic, you know, lay person or whoever it is, to have something to go to and to have conversations around it and Instagram post about it and making that a
thing. There's no structure.
Look,
to
I'm
it.
trying to.
I try not to
No,
say
I
a thing.
get what you're
I know what
doing.
you're saying. I agree.
It's a good idea.
It's an amazing idea.
I think I'm following you in terms
I'm
of
just trying
like,
to articulate it.
yeah, like almost
There's a workout plan for your mind.
create
process.
programming for mental health, so people
Yes.
can step by step it. Like there's programming for powerlifting or bodybuilding or conditioning. That's easy. You can fucking. It's
So
all over
you know that-
Instagram.
But then there's mass conversations. There's people who represent it. There's people like, if I'm thinking about fitness, I can think about Cory. And
Yeah.
there's a process. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but if it's like you put out like, here's 10 starting points for mental health management. Oh shit, I like number 7.
Yes,
So
yes.
it's like it's not a one size fits all deal.
No.
Right? You know what I'm saying? So yeah, programming mental health like it's physical health, I think is a fucking fantastic idea.
So this was my kind of grand plan for the people that believe in me from a fitness standpoint, was to feed them this information while they were doing their conditioning. That was a huge driver for me to study harder and impact more people and basically have them programmed to do this while they're doing their conditioning. That's why I tried to make it a thing.
Yeah, I think that's great from it, like a feeding yourself information, but mental health
I
has
understand
got to
what you're
go beyond
Sure.
like just like.
But that's where the
Yeah.
thought kind of based
Yeah,
from.
I think it's a great.
Yeah.
That's a great.
It
Structure.
starts to unravel it a little bit, like, ooh, and this is what I get. People go, well, man, I'm kind of down this path.
Right.
It's like, but there isn't anything else.
Then
like
I
that.
think people need to find peace, right? We
Yeah.
all talk about finding our peace. You talked about your coffee in the morning. I'll talk about my art and music. Like you have to, where is your peace? And you better spend time in it daily. You better spend time in it daily.
Even when you say that, it sparked a thought in my head. And you know, everybody knows I talk about mental health, but just having spaces for wellness. You know, and we talk about, you know, you talk about CBD, we talk about the importance of rest. We talk about the importance of, and I'm just thinking about different thoughts, you know, because, you know, in my brain somewhere, I thought that I have a wellness studio. I really did. You know what I'm saying? That, you know, you can go get. So one of the hardest things, I'm switching gears a bit, but I want you all to follow me. We're talking about the importance of taking care of ourselves. And one of the hardest things to book when you want to book one thing is a massage, right?
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, massotherapy is a real thing. I think acupuncture is a real thing. I'm just talking about wellness in general. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. Take care of yourself.
Taking care of yourself. I seen on internet one time, they have those hyperbaric chambers.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? To even get in some of those hyperbaric chambers, I'm pretty sure it deals with inflammation and light therapy. But to value it enough to say, hey, I'm going to invest in myself enough to do this, to feel better, to be a better individual to the world. And I don't think that people realize that like sometimes when we put money into something, we want something tangible back. You know what I'm saying? And so we like, you know, I'm not about to invest into something I don't get a thing from.
The value of feeling good is something I'm not willing to give up. That's why I'm such a fucking stickler with the time that we talked about outlining, with the things that I eat, because I understand, because I've studied it and done it for years, how you can feel and what result you get from that. I think people that can't see their dick for 8 years
it's a long
are
time.
so normal.
Save.
Their norm is so bad. That is what they're used to. If they could just understand, this is what I tell my new clients when I used to meet them in person. If you will listen to me, you don't understand how good you can feel again. You forgot.
So and I was going to ask you this. What we should do is just have metrics around what does it mean to feel good.
I like that.
You know what I mean? Because that can help me. Because like if you told me, hey, So I understand it, but I'm thinking like I'm the naive person who comes to Cory, and I have issues.
Sure.
You can make me feel good. Like
what's that mean?
What does that mean?
We could do a whole fucking
what I'm saying? But
podcast on that.
As you're talking, I'm trying to articulate in my brain.
Yeah.
I don't know how I would convey that. I just know what it means to feel better.
I think there's got to be components, and the physical component is a large component. But like I talked about on a previous episode, for me, if we're talking about mental health managers, when you deal with, I ain't talking about no stupid fucking life coach. I'm talking about a professional. Like when you deal with someone that can pull that stuff out of you, and those people are everywhere. Those professionals are everywhere. That coupled with a routine where you can feel, there has to be a whole deal that involves mind, body, spirit, soul. Yeah. And I just think so many people, a lot of people can be like, okay, the exercise part, which is fucking mandatory. I can understand that, but they can't understand sitting across from someone that can pull thoughts out of them, put them on the table, make them stare at them.
Don't want to be vulnerable,
what
John.
that will do to them. But that is what takes you beyond, because you can push yourself and you can feel great, but revealing yourself and going back, it needs to be a program with steps.
Well, I think that this process, the podcast has done a ton of that for me, because I've never, because here's the other thing is no one just outlines time to do real thought-provoking things with other people that are at a peer level that had crazy experiences. It's just dude, no one does that. We would not do this, and we're all friends.
Right.
Unless we had an outlined
There's
time
no way
to do it. That's why it feels so good inside to do this podcast like we do. Yeah. It's just good. So I think we should wrap it up. Good job, guys.
Good shit.
Hey, it's brought to you by Square. Square Capital, John. They have Square Capital. You can apply for small business loans through Square.
Yeah, I mean, everyone can look at Square for all the great things they do to support businesses, to make businesses more efficient. But now that they're lending capital,
so cool.
It just makes them literally a one-stop shop, man.
Literally,
I love what these great businesses are doing to say and become through action, like, we can do almost everything for you.
Absolutely.
And now that they're loaning capital out, Square's even more
Maurice,
powerful.
that means no trips to banks.
No.
During banking hours, they can provide your small business from $500 to $250,000. And that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Loans are subject to credit approval and issued by Celtic Bank, member FDIC. Had to say that? All right. Maurice Claret, Johnny Fosco. Can the podcast be stopped?
The podcast can't